Gopi Janna Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Yasodanandana Jaya Braja Jandaranjana Jaya Braja Jandaranjana Jaya Yasodanandana Jaya Braja Jandaranjana Jaya Braja Jandaranjana Jaya Jamundhatirvandachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Jamundhatirvandachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janna Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janna Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Yasodanandana Jaya Braja Jandaranjana Jaya Braja Jandaranjana Jaya Yasodanandana Jaya Braja Jandaranjana Jaya Braja Jandaranjana Jaya Jamuna Brahmachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Jamuna Brahmachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari. Gopijana Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari. Yasodanandana Jaya Brajajandaranjana Jaya Brajajandaranjana. Yasodanandana Jaya Brajajandaranjana Jaya Brajajandaranjana. Jaya Jamunatira Brahmachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Jamunatira Brahmachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Jamunatira Brahmachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitya-Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitya-Gaura Haribo. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Ashtotara Sada Shri Śrīmad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. His Founder-Acharya Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam Grantharaj Ki Jai. Gaura Pramanandi Hari Hari Bol. Om Agyan Timiranjasya Jananjana Salakya Chakshu Militamdina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 22, Text number 17. Maitreya Uvacha Pitasta Chuktam Akanya Shadham Shushtu Mitham Madhu Smayamana Iva Pritya Kumara Prachuvachaha. Maitreya Uvacha Pritastat Suktam Akanya Sharam Sushtu Mitham Madhu Smayamana Iva Pritya Kumara Prachuvachaha. Maitreya Uvacha Pritastat Suktam Akanya Saram Sustu Mitham Madhu Smayamana Iva Pritya Kumara Prachuvachaha. Any other children want to? Yeah, you all have to go. You're good. Excellent. Maitreya Uvacha. The great sage Maitreya continued to speak. Pritho of King Prithu. Tat, that. Shuktam, Vedic conclusion. Akanya, hearing. Saram, very substantial. Sushtu, appropriate. Mitam, minimized. Madhu, sweet to hear. Smayamana, smiling. Iva, like. Pritya, out of great satisfaction. Kumara, celibate. Prachuvacha, replied. Ha, thus. Translation. The great sage Maitreya continued. Yeah, you can say that. The great sage Maitreya continued. Thus Sanat Kumara, the best of the celibates, after hearing the speech of Prithu Maharaj, which was meaningful, appropriate, full of precise words, and very sweet to hear, smiled with full satisfaction, and began to speak as follows. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Prithu Maharaj's talks before the Kumaras were very laudable because of so many qualifications. A speech should be composed of selected words, very sweet to hear, and appropriate to the situation. Such speech is called meaningful. All these good qualifications are present in Prithu Maharaj's speech because he is a perfect devotee. It is said, Yasyasti bhakti bhagavati ukinchana savaya gunais tatra samasate suraha. For one who has unflinching devotional faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is engaged in His service, all good qualities become manifest in his person. That's from the Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 18, Text 12. Thus, the Kumaras were very much pleased, and Sanat Kumara began to speak as follows. So here, the four Kumaras have appeared in the assembly where Prithi Maharaj is, along with many other great personalities and assembled members of his kingdom. So, Prithi Maharaj has welcomed the Kumaras and inquired from them. He has glorified them, and in that way he has set the tone so that everyone present is on the same page. That everyone present realizes that an event has happened. What is the significance of this event? Here, the four Kumaras have appeared, and these are personalities which are so exalted that it is very rare, even amongst the demigods and sages, that one gets their audience like this. So, one may see the four Kumaras. Of course, the four Kumaras, although they're completely on the transcendental platform, still they accepted the forms as like little children in order to facilitate activities on that transcendental platform where they're completely detached, completely celibate, and their only attachment is to transcendental activities. So those forms they have taken in order to facilitate that. Even though they're transcendental, still they have also done that. Just like, persons become celibate, and still, although they're following the principles of celibacy, they may take to the sannyas ashram as well. Already they're celibate, but they take to the sannyas ashram as well, because it is very helpful to, not just for them, but for those who see them and deal with them, to treat them in a way in which there's no confusion as to their position. There is no material activities, thoughts or consciousness involved with such transcendental people. So these four Kumaras are very, very elevated. Actually, the Kumaras, they're senior even to Lord Shiva in that they're, elder brothers. So, Lord Shiva is very rarely seen, and his association is sought after by even all the demigods, and he is considered in a senior or elder position to them. So, and of course that may not be obvious. So here, of course, we're in Melbourne Temple, and quite often we have visitors, and and some of those visitors are very exalted personalities. And actually, it's the duty and proper etiquette and proper behaviour that when a senior personality comes into a community, someone should just briefly, eloquently, point out, who is this person? What is this great opportunity? Otherwise, for a lot of people, even the devotees, may not, may not take advantage. They may not realise the opportunity that's present. When there's a great opportunity, if someone says, someone's standing up the road there giving out big wads of money, you tell everyone, go and get a wad, Or, there's a jewellery store closing down, they're just giving it away. Diamonds, rubies, like that. You tell your friends, you tell everyone that you... So when, such a personality comes into the community, it's actually the duty of those who understand the position most correctly, to inform the community. I know when I go up to Mawulumbar once a year, that, there are a lot of senior devotees there. There's some of the, early pioneers, even after the time of Srila Prabhupada left. And I always, if I'm with someone and I see one of, even my old godbrothers walk past, I say, oh, that's so-and-so. He did this, he did that, did you know? And they're like amazed. And they're even living on that property with that person and they didn't even know. That such a person did so many activities we can't even imagine. And still, in old age, sometimes with so many illnesses, they're doing such wonderful service behind the scenes, no one even notices. So I always do that because I notice that somehow or another that's not being done. Previously, that was a common feature in ISKCON. So, really, I don't have any qualification to be, giving Śrīmad Bhāgavatam class, but somehow or another, the opportunities come my way, and you're all kind enough to sit and bear with me for this 45 minutes. But since I'm here, sometimes it's, there are things that were a common part of ISKCON that sometimes we see gradually disappear, but they should be brought back. If sometimes general devotees may not see that, then it's the duty of someone who can, for the satisfaction of Srila Prabhupada, one may give instruction, even though one may not necessarily be a devotee of any significance, but to in the service of Srila Prabhupada, one should still give the instruction. And I remember a few years ago, even here in Melbourne, I came into the temple. Actually, because I do a lot of services just to the right of this temple room, and I keep some paraphernalia in there, and sometimes I'm in the Dita room, I hear a lot of the kirtans. And I notice that devotees on a regular basis, even devotees who are doing Bhakti Shastri and this and that and the other, something, in a somewhat senior position, they were not singing the prayers to Srila Prabhupada when they led kirtan, and not even doing the Panchatattva Maha Mantra. And the chanting of the Hare Krishna was reducing, and there was all sorts of other tunes, Radhe this, Radhe that, Govinda, like that. And, I came into the temple room and I said to they'd only just started, and I said to the devotees who was leading, I said, oh, can you just pause for a minute? I said, you haven't done, the mantras. And he got angry at me, and when he got angry at me, all the other devotees who were doing kirtan also got angry at me. That, this is the way we always do it. So once something disappears, then something which is not to be done becomes the norm. So, and I could see that was there to the point where one, they were literally angry at, a harmless old Brahmana like myself. And it took me a fair bit of convincing to get them to do that. So that's a big mission, in the day. Even after Prabhupada's disappearance, it was unheard of that a devotee would do that, to lead a kirtan without chanting the prayers of Prabhupada or the Panchatattva Mahamantra. It was unheard of. For it to become a norm, is something is quite astounding. So, there are many things like that. So here we see that Prithi Maharaj, being the most senior person, but although he's the most senior person, he's not acting as if he's a senior person, but he's acting as the servant of the personality of Godhead to make sure things are done properly. And because the process, the Vedic process, is that the entire, within the society, in the Vedic process, from, the lower levels of society, in the sense of those who are perhaps understand culture and and knowledge, to the most elevated stages, those who have the highest qualities, the greatest education and transcendental qualities. Everyone follows a superior person in the Vedic culture. That is the natural situation. Every single person follows a superior person. So we see that, in general, just to sum that up quickly, the Brahmanas, they are, the Kshatriyas are under the guidance, act under the guidance of the Brahmanas. The Vaishyas act under the guidance of the Kshatriyas. And the Sudras act under the guidance generally of all three, generally directly under the guidance of the Vaishyas. And they are situated within Vedic culture. And others, those who are a fifth class, in one sense, they're under the guidance of those who are actually following the Vedic culture. So, here, Prithi Maharaj, because what happens, of course, is that this is a natural system, because, you imagine when children go to school, that if the teachers were under the guidance of the students. Can you imagine that? So I see eyebrows going up and smiles coming to your faces. Does that happen in your school? No. Because it just wouldn't work. Because those who have, who are heavier in knowledge, they pass on knowledge to those who don't have that. So Vedic culture is like that. That is a natural system. We see this in the Bhagavad Gita, that those who are Krishna, when he gives very, very elevated knowledge, he gives that through the parampara system, through the saintly kings who are under the guidance of the Brahmanas. And the Raja Rishis, being very, very qualified. In other words, they're saintly persons, but they're also rulers. and they make sure that that knowledge coming from the transcendental sources, the personality of Godhead through the different Vedas and the revealed scriptures, that is passed on. That is a system because Krishna will pass on transcendental knowledge to those who are capable of receiving it. You cannot pass on the teachings to those who are not capable of receiving it, that they will somehow disseminate that, because they'll struggle to even understand that. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, do we have a Bhagavad Gita in the house? Yeah. In the Bhagavad Gita, was it 1860? Is it 1867? That can you open up to 1867? That Krishna, after speaking the most confidential part of knowledge, he says to Arjuna, "This is because you are my devotee and my friend, and never envious of me, I will give you this most confidential knowledge." And he says that, always think of me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer obeisances to me, offer your homage unto me. And then after telling, and surrender to this, Arjuna, surrender to this process of engaging in pure devotional service to the personality of Godhead, and give up all other religious practices like that. So then he tells Arjuna, in verse 67, he says, "Idam te nirapakshaya nabhakya karachana na chasushusave vacham na chamam yo vyasuyati." This confidential knowledge may never be explained to those who are not austere or devoted or engaged in devotional service, nor to one who is envious of me. Why is that? Because they'll not be able to understand. They're not qualified, to understand those teachings. Just like when you go to the educational system, all of my children were homeschooled up to a certain point, somewhere almost up to just before going to secondary school. And then when they went to secondary school, then the teachers had to assess them as to where they fitted in. And they always went up a level from their age, because the teachers would examine them, and they would see not just their academic skills, but it was their approach to everything. Because of being homeschooled, they had a whole different approach. They thought for themselves, they were thinkers, they were resourceful, they were enthusiastic. And so they understood, even if some of the academics they may have missed, or may not be exactly the same as the secondary school, that they would catch up like that. So because of their qualifications, they put them up a grade and gave them a higher standard of knowledge. So these are the qualifications. Now, when you go to university, when you get an academic education, the qualifications are that how much can you remember, and there's some, the ability to, having good character is not even on the list. Therefore, we see that, a lot of people get a university degree. We see with our politicians, they're highly educated, and so-called, and they behave like animals. And much to the amusement and embarrassment of the citizens. So, their education really is a failure, but character, good qualities, And of course, one's understanding of things as they are, and if one understands things as they are, they understand that there is spiritual knowledge, that we are a spirit soul, and there is a supreme soul, and there is an eternal relationship between the individual soul and the supreme soul. That spiritual knowledge, that one who understands that spiritual knowledge, their education will qualify them not to take birth again. Although generally, in the educational system, people are not interested in that. They're not interested. That topic never comes up. They, in this life, they're quite satisfied to become very, very exalted personalities, wealthy, famous, leaders, inventors, industrialists, philanthropists, so many things. And it doesn't bother them. Next life, dog. That doesn't bother them. That is the education. So, but here, the higher qualifications are listed here. That one who is not austere, in other words, one who lives their life, and their whole educational process is geared toward them fulfilling their sensual requirements to their fullest ability and helping others to fulfill their sensual requirements, just like the animals. The whole educational process is like that. As we say, according to scriptures, they're like polished animals. So we don't like to say that. I can't help smiling. But we don't like to say that, and we should be careful what we say. Still, it is the duty of those who have knowledge to try and speak that, but in a palatable way. I remember when I first became a devotee in 1978, and I took initiation after being a devotee for 6 weeks. So, I didn't have a lot of experience in preaching, but there was a big occasion where I sort of tried to speak the philosophy. What happened was that I'd only been a devotee, as I said, just a month and a half, 2 months. An ex-girlfriend came to the temple. I don't know how she even found me. I was a Brahmachari at that stage. She was in a van. She had, a friend of hers, and she said, forget this Hare Krishna, jump in the van, we'll travel around Australia, we'll just have a good time. So, I said to her, look, that's sense gratification, that's animal life. Oh, did she get angry? She got so angry. She's never spoken to me since, never seen me since. But I remember thinking, okay, that is our philosophy. I'm going to have to tone that down a bit. Yeah. But she got so angry, she jumped in the van, slammed the door and drove off like that. I mean, it did the job. But, I understood. It's our basic philosophy is very, very strong, so we have to be very careful how we apply it. We should try and speak pleasingly, one of the qualifications. So, but those who are not austere, as you see, now this person their whole mood was, sensuality, and you can't even speak a little bit of philosophy to them. That they'll not understand it. In fact, they'll get you give instruction to a fool, they'll become angry. So she slammed the door and left. So you can't speak Bhagavad Gita to those who are not austere. So then he says, or devoted. Now, when one practices devotional service, then they're eligible, especially for the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, which is the ABC, or the very, beginning steps in Krishna consciousness. Which Krishna spoke to Arjuna, 45 minutes or so on the Battle of Kurukshetra. Very quickly, Arjuna assimilated and boom, into war. So, but as we see, scholars have been discussing Bhagavad Gita for thousands of years, and they cannot understand it. And only actually when, of course, the Acharyas, who are devoted to the personality of Godhead, they're not envious of God. As it says there, one who is envious. How can one be, envious of God and at the same time devoted? It's not possible. So those who are above envy, they can be devoted. And but then here Krishna says even more. He says, or engage in devotional service. So, Srila Prabhupada describes that actually one may be devoted, but if they're not practicing devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master in the association of devotees, most likely they're posing as devotees, but they don't really have the, significant qualifications. We see with Arjuna, he heard the ABCs of the Gita, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is one person. Krishna says, I am that's a personality of Godhead. He has many different forms, such as Narayan, Vishnu. He appears as, he manifests his energies as the different demigods. But there's only one Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is Purush. So in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, we study the Purushottama Yoga, the science of understanding the one supreme transcendental person, Purushottama, Uttama, transcendental. And all others are Krishna's prakriti or energy. Everyone else is actually the energy. So Purush means the predominator, the enjoyer, the controller, and prakriti means the servant. So everyone else is a servant. So Arjuna heard Bhagavad Gita, and his immediate response was to take up service to Krishna. If one hears the Gita, I quite often, every time I do a little ceremony, I always like to ask this question. Because mostly there are a lot of people from the Hindu background. I say, so you read the Gita? Oh, well, yes. Oh, really? What, daily? Oh, no, a long time ago. I read it a couple of times. I heard a bit and put it down like that, you see. So if you read the Gita and you don't take up service, it means you're not understood, isn't it? Someone reads the Gita and they just put it down and then just go through the world thinking I'm the Purush, the enjoyer. Whether it's male or female, all the males and the females in this world, we all think that we are the Purush or the enjoyer, the master. We all want to be served. Everybody in this world wants to be served. No one wants to do service like that. That is the nature of this world. Everyone wants to be Purush. If we read the Gita, we'll understand, Krishna is Purush, God is Purush, I'm the servant, I'm meant to serve him. If we have that understanding, then we'll take up service to the Supreme Lord. If we don't take up that service, it means that we've not understood Gita. If we don't take up service, even if there's some understanding, it means we're not qualified, our faith is not strong enough, our situation under the clutches of the modes of material nature where we're servant of the mind and the senses, and we're attached to that position of being the servant of the mind and the senses for sense gratification. Again, our understanding of the Gita is not there. Therefore, the qualification is there. So even if one is devoted, oh yes, I like the Gita, I've read the Gita like that, still Krishna says that's not enough. Gita, he's saying even don't speak the Gita, especially the confidential parts of the Gita. But in Srila Prabhupada's purport, we see that the Gita itself, sometimes we may not speak to them. Not even mention, sometimes you can't even mention the word Gita. Sometimes you're preaching even to people from India and you can't mention the word Gita because they'll get disturbed. So you've got to talk about the Gita without them knowing that you're even discussing Gita. So then, what happens, of course, is that as one engages in devotional service, understanding that Krishna is Hrishikesh, he is actually the controller and the director of the senses. All the senses belong to him and should be engaged in his service. If we engage our senses in the service of Krishna, our senses become purified. That is called bhakti. So Krishna is saying, become my devotee. What does that mean? He's saying, practice bhakti yoga. Now, of course, bhakti yoga, as he says, always think of me. And that's bhakti yoga. But somehow or another, in everything you do, you think of the personality of Godhead. And use all your senses, you mold your life, so all your mind, your senses, everything is engaged in such a way that everything you do with the senses reminds you of Krishna and helps you to think of Krishna. But if one can't do that, then in the Gita, Krishna says, if you can't do that, then follow the sadhana bhakti. If you can't follow the raga bhakti, the Uttama bhakti, then follow sadhana bhakti, where you regulate the senses under the guidance of Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, and gradually, the mind and senses will be controlled. Because if we don't have full control of them ourselves, then we take the, forceful assistance from spiritual master, from a community association of Vaishnavas, like this. In this way, one can actually engage oneself in bhakti or engage the senses, the mind and all the senses, in the service of the master of the senses. And if we do that, the result is our senses become purified. When our senses become purified, we are then able to understand the Bhagavad Gita. If we understand the Bhagavad Gita, that is the same as Krishna revealing himself to us. Krishna will not reveal himself to those who are not austere, not devoted, only by bhakti. And if one engages in bhakti, Krishna will reveal himself. And that preliminary revelation of Krishna is the understanding that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All the energies, everything in this world, when we look at anything in this world, we see from the Bhagavad Gita, we should see like this. We're looking at a tree. The body is formed by the three modes of material nature. Within that tree is a living entity. Those three modes of material nature are Krishna's material energy. Within that tree there's a living entity. That living entity is Krishna's superior spiritual energy. And within that tree, the super soul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, exists within every atom of that tree and within the heart of the living entity. And therefore, we're just seeing Krishna. That's the result of understanding Bhagavad Gita. That everything is Krishna, and we are his eternal servant, and everyone and all energies are engaged in the service of the personality of Godhead. And that is our proper position, and when we're in that situation, we become free from the clutches of the material energy and are eligible to be promoted. So this is the bhakti system. So here we see that this verse is quoted about Pritha Maharaj. Yasyasti bhakti bhagavati kinchana save ganesh tatra samastate sura. For one who has unflinching devotional faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is engaged in his service, all good qualities become manifest in his person. Same thing. Same thing mentioned. Must engage in the service of Krishna. So we see that Prithu Maharaj, although he's Shaktavesh he's taking great transcendental pleasure in very nicely and very wonderfully serving the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by acting as a Raja Rishi and disseminating, helping all the citizens to engage their senses in Krishna consciousness. Govinda, who gives pleasure to the senses and for them to be happy in this life and the next. So he is qualified to speak. He is qualified by the activities of Prithu Maharaj. We can see that such a personality has all the highest qualifications, and because everyone there can perceive those qualifications in Prithu Maharaj, they're quite happy for him to speak. That here are the four Kumaras, and they have come. Let us take advantage of their presence. What is that? Let us find out, by what process all the living entities in this world can become free from the cycle of birth and death. Once again, come to their natural position on the spiritual platform and go back to Godhead. So let us ask them on this platform. And these personalities, above everyone here, they are qualified to speak. Like that. It's such a rare blessing. So, he is speaking like that. So this is actually the process that we follow. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he teaches that same process in the Shishastika. In the first verse, Chaita Dapana Marjanam, he describes the glories of the holy name of the Lord in such a way that one can understand the process in Kali Yuga for achieving, the result of stopping the cycle of birth and death and going back to Godhead. Because in Kali Yuga, no other process is possible to achieve self-realization and God-realization because of the powerful degrading influence of Kali Yuga. And searching through all the scriptures, it is stated, Harinam, 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 Eva Kevalam, Kaluna, Steven, and Stevikati, Ranyata. Now that verse, that not, even in Bhagavad Gita, properly God realization is achieved by bhakti. Srila Prabhupada puts it this way. He says, the Bhagavad Gita does not say you can understand God, Krishna, by Karma Yoga. The Bhagavad Gita does not say you can understand God, Bhagavan Sri Krishna, by Jnana Yoga. The Bhagavad Gita does not say you can understand Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by Ashtanga Yoga. But Krishna does say you can only understand Bhagavan Sri Krishna by the process of bhakti. So, and this is the benefit of approaching, who knows better than God himself? We can go through all the Vedic literatures and over many, many lifetimes We can go through karma yoga for 3 or 4 million lifetimes. We can go through jnana yoga through so many lifetimes. We make some mistakes. We may end up a dog, then come back gradually up. Gradually we get to Ashtanga yoga like this. Maybe we become a dog again, because we think we're God. Back down again. Gradually, millions and millions of years. Or we can just hear from Krishna. He says, look, don't do that. Don't waste your time. I'm the compiler of the Vedas. I'm the knower of the Vedas. I'm the goal of the Vedas. Just take the bhakti. Don't waste your time. Like that. And that's the benefit of taking knowledge from someone who has knowledge way, way, way above us. Otherwise, we have to investigate it the slow way. Similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, in Kali Yuga, there is so many, Srila Prabhupada says, the nature of the material energy, Maya, is that she's always endeavouring for us to be cheated by the material energy. To never come to the platform, to always remain in ignorance, covered. To never ever remember again our eternal spiritual nature and to never know God and to forget the spiritual world, to be completely covered. And in Kali Yuga, her ability that everyone will be cheated, even when the gurus come, and they're presenting the Vedas and even presenting Bhagavad Gita, which I have no access to. They're just presenting so many cheating processes. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes and says, don't bother being cheated here, and being cheated there, and then being dissatisfied, being cheated there. If you go through all the Vedas, and research it, which has been done, there is this verse that in Kali Yuga the process is Harinam Kirtan, and in this Kali Yuga Krishna himself has come to give that Yuga Dharma, and especially giving emphasis to how we can fully understand the benefit of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Mahamantra, above all mantras, above all the processes of chanting the name of the Lord, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the most powerful, the most easy, and it can take you not just back to the spiritual world, but it can elevate one to the to be one of the most confidential, loving associates of the personality of Godhead and be in their association. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu describes that first verse, and then in the second verse, and of course, the 9th offense of the holy name is that we should also not teach the glories of the holy name to those who are faithless. So therefore, we see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he wanted everyone to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And if they don't understand the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, then, he didn't stop, and he didn't necessarily indicate that every single person should be preached philosophy until you understand it. No. Just chant, dance, have kirtan. It's so attractive, it's so enjoyment. Have prasadam, so many festivals. And just chant. And then as they become purified, then gradually some of the glories of the holy name can be given. And Srila Prabhupada says that, specifically for initiated devotees, that's where actually the spiritual masters are really given full authorization. Now I can give this living entity, I can fully give them that faith. They're not the faithless. I can fully, teach them about the glories of the holy name. And that's there within that first sloka. Of course, in the beginning, devotees, even they're initiated, there's a lot of information in that first sloka of the Shastaka. I think there's 7 different, excellences of the holy name, if one fully understands that, it's very wonderful. It gives you great faith and attraction to the holy name. But still, the second verse of the Shastaka, it says that, but I have no qualification. The holy name is so wonderful, non-different from the Lord. All his potencies are there. And he's so merciful. You can chant the holy name. You can chant while you're eating. You can chant while you're sleeping. So accessible. And the person out of Godhead is fully there. But I have very little attraction. I struggle. If I chant, even chanting 16 rounds, my mind is going here. I'm walking around picking weeds out of the garden, thinking of all the things I'll do today, what I did yesterday, what that person said to me, what I'll say back to them when I see them. So many different things. Hare Krishna, nish, 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 and so, therefore, the spiritual master teaches, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches that if you want to be qualified properly, you have to put yourself in a humble state of mind where you're taking instruction from those who can give you instruction. That, one should be very humble. And of course this is, the mood of this class, that sometimes what happens is we're chanting. Oh, I've been chanting for 10 years now. Now, people should know what a big Vaishnava I am. And I will be giving instruction. People will be served me by hearing my instruction. Gradually I'll become a guru. Perhaps I already am, pretty much. So this is the same disease, that everyone in this material world, no one wants to serve, everyone wants to be served. So when he's chanting Hare Krishna, and there's so many anathas, they're all still there. If one wants to remove those anathas, one has to place oneself under the direction of Vaishnavas who may have been appointed by one's Diksha Guru. So there are so many Vaishnavas, so many Vaishnavis. And what do? They will point out, Prabhu, this may be a bit of anatha, that, there's this pride, or this, this attachment, that, you cannot progress very nicely. It will hold, you'll progress, but as Prabhupada says, there'll be long delays in you achieving. If you want to achieve success in Krishna consciousness very quickly, that anatha, it can be seen very easily. Actually, just like a parent can look at a child, if the child tells a lie, the parent knows, they're lying. And the children are thinking, I've gone to so much trouble to conceal my lie. How do they know? The parent just has to look at them, I'm telling lies. Sort of Prabhupada, you see, Prabhupada would just look at someone. Everyone felt, he just read me like a book. You speak to any of his disciples. Sort of Prabhupada just look at them. 1 or 2 seconds, Prabhupada's read them like a book. The anathas, what they should do, what they shouldn't do. For seeing, and if one is, nicely taking instruction from Srila Prabhupada, studying the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, studying the Bhagavad Gita, so much information there. Devotees have really studied Prabhupada's books, hearing his lectures, hearing from, then, they have that a little bit of ability then to help devotees with their anathas. If a devotee is proud, I've been around for 20 years, And that means I don't have to listen to anyone anymore. I've been around for 5 years. Actually, it used to be like that. Previously, devotees were around for a long, long time, and but even if a devotee was been around for 6 months more than you, you always listen to them forever. Still to this day, if the devotees have been there for longer than you, and of course in those days longer meant, boy, they were fully engaged, 24 hours a day. 6 months in those days can be like 5 years now. I'm not joking. If someone was there for 6 months and they hadn't blooped, it was intense. So you listen to them. Now, a devotee can be around for 30 years longer than you. No, Prabhu, I've read the books. You've read the books, I've read the books. What can you tell me? We're reading the same books, after all. So, therefore, Chaitanya, that is the process by which one can actually chant nicely. And if one chants nicely, one develops the qualities, and those qualities display that, yes, this person has actually come to a higher level of nishta through associating with devotees, through hearing from them, through following the bhajana kriya, taking initiation and serving the person, the guru, Shishya Guru Garanga and the Vaishnava community in a humble state of mind. They actually develop the good quality. They develop these are transcendental qualities: humility, always thinking oneself that very, very tiny devotee. No real good qualification. I mean, after all, when we think of it, what is our qualification? If Lord Chaitanya, if Krishna hadn't appeared 5,000 years ago to speak the Bhagavad Gita, what would we know? If Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't appear 500 years ago to explain the Bhagavad Gita, which has been, then what would we know? And how to, follow that in Kali Yuga, what would we be doing? If Srila Prabhupada didn't come to the West, travel all over the world and say, this is how Bhagavad Gita is followed in this day and age, perfectly, according to Kali Yuga, according to the scriptures, according to the Charas, what would we know? If Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't order us, you chant Hare Krishna, by what strength would we chant Hare Krishna? We chant Hare Krishna because the person of Godhead ordered us, because Lord Nityananda went door to door. You, please, you do me one favour. You give me a gift. You chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and become liberated. And then he'd go to the next door. Please, sir, give me one gift. So, otherwise, what would we be doing? So then where is our pride? And everything we do is, when we chant Hare Krishna, we're praying, dear Lord, I'm under the clutches of your material energy. You have given me this Mahamantra, which is non-different from yourself, by which you can release me from the material energy and allow me to engage in your devotional service. If it wasn't for the spiritual potency of the Lord giving us that shelter, he is Hrishikesh, which means that he is the control of our senses even in devotional service. Arjuna fought the battle of Kurukshetra and all his senses were like instruments in the hands of Krishna. His mind and senses. Okay? And Krishna is actually doing everything. And Krishna said to Arjuna, Arjuna, all these people are already killed. I've killed them by my will. No one's going home, except for a few Pandavas and that. But if you don't fight, already I've done it. I've done all of this. But you take the credit, Arjuna. It's just like, we're doing service to spread Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan. What are we doing? Lord Chaitanya's done everything. Actually, he's done it. It's like that. But he's saying, but you take the credit. I'll help you with your mind, your senses, like that. So we should always remain humble. If that humility is not there, it means we really have not got proper knowledge of our situation. Then how can we chant, from a platform of foolishness? Very tolerant. So in this way, if one actually follows the process of taking shelter of those who are capable, always feeling oneself that, that is my position. I have no qualification, and we're always offering respects to others. Here's this nice Vaishnava, here's this nice Vaishnava. What do I see in them? I see these wonderful transcendental qualities. I see so much engagement, nicely, that's pleasing to the Vaishnava community, pleasing to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I can't do that. Let me, hear from them. And by doing that, one is then elevated to the next stage whereby one actually is properly situated. How? One becomes very exalted. What is that exalted position? Let me become a speck of dust at the lotus feet of the Lord. Even the exalted, liberated platform of devotee, they understand that. You are the supreme person of Godhead. When I become liberated from, my foolishness, then if I can become a little speck and serve your lotus feet, then that is my perfection. Like that. And of course from there, everything gradually develops under the direction of the spiritual energy. Srimati Radharani herself, gradually we take shelter from, as we progress, Krishna will always give us the next level of direction. And Krishna appears in the form, if we're associating with the Vaishnavas and the spiritual master, we can take it, as Srila Prabhupada says, it is tantamount we're associating with Krishna. When we associate with the sun, it's through the sunshine, not the sun directly. There will always be, so then gradually we get to the point where the person who is teaching us directly is Radharani. Imagine we get to that point, we say, oh look, I'm elevated enough. I know enough. I've got Bhava, I've got Prema. I'm a Prema Bhakti now. Thanks, Radharani, but no thanks. Always, even when we get to the spiritual world, we think, look, I'm back in the spiritual world. Now I'm the master. No more hearing. No, always, eternally. Because eternally we will always be under Krishna. We're always a servant. We're always Prakriti. And Krishna is always approved. So whether on the spiritual platform or the material platform. And so here, Prithu Maharaj is teaching us by his example. And we're also seeing how the natural process of elevation to spiritual life is there within the Daivi Varnashram. So I'll leave it there if anyone has any questions or comments about that. Yeah.
I haven't read it completely and I definitely haven't understood, but like somewhere it says, I've heard that while describing the qualities of someone situated in goodness, it says that not only that affection for auspicious activities should be there, but equally you should not be hating the inauspicious also with equal love. But I have observed, I as well as a lot of other people tend to hate the activities, as in that is the motivation to like something that is good. So how do we avoid that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the principle is this, that everything that is favourable for execution of unmotivated devotional service to Krishna, that we accept. So everything that is favourable for serving Krishna purely, sincerely, without some hidden motivation, that we accept. And everything that's unfavourable to that, we should reject. That's the principle. Otherwise, there's no way of telling. And actually, that is the real definition of what is auspicious and what is inauspicious. Otherwise, we may consider something auspicious and something inauspicious, and we are misidentified. So, in other words, if Krishna says something is auspicious, then his opinion is above ours. We may be considering it inauspicious, and yet Krishna is saying it's auspicious, then we follow Krishna. And how do we know that? Because it's coming down through Guru, through the Vaishnavas, otherwise we won't know. Therefore Arjuna, he was thinking, this battle of Kurukshetra is inauspicious. I can only see misfortune, Krishna. So you see the nature of this material world, how complex, the nature of Maya. You know, such a personality, a good friend of Krishna, best friend. Very, very qualified. He failed to distinguish what was auspicious and what was inauspicious. You see? So many things had to be considered. Arjuna, you know, gave so many different strong arguments of the principal aspects of auspiciousness, which may be, trodden on, pushed aside by this battle. And so many inauspicious events that will come. But ultimately he understood that, in order to achieve the will of the Lord, Krishna has two businesses. One is protecting religious principles and the devotees who abide by them, and the other is destroying, removing the irreligious principles and those who, are against proper religious principles. So he has two businesses. So the battle took place at the place of Kurukshetra, which is a holy place. And there, Krishna sowed the seeds of religious principles, eternal religious principles. In order to sow the seeds of eternal religious principles, first you have to remove the weeds. Okay? Now one may look at a garden and think, oh, you're putting one plant in and you're taking 10 out. It just doesn't make sense. You see? But the gardener knows. The gardener understands. If we're not a gardener, we may not know. So we approach a gardener. Now we approach a gardener for higher knowledge. Why should we not approach Krishna and a guru for spiritual knowledge? Okay? So it's like that. That some things may have to be, which appear to be auspicious, may actually be impediments for eternal religious principles. And that we can't distinguish unless we follow those who do know exactly, they can see exactly. A good gardener can recognise every single plant and every single weed and the nature of them. Sometimes a weed looks, exactly like the plant. And sometimes we allow that weed that looks even more wonderful than the plant that we sowed to, what's the word? Smother, and strangle the actual plant we want. So in bhakti, there are so many weeds within the heart, and it is impossible for one not trained in the spiritual science to recognise what is the pure bhakti, pure love of God, and what are the weeds that look something like that. And so anything which hampers our developing pure love of God as rapidly as possible is considered inauspicious, isn't it? Even though it may be wonderful and auspicious generally, it may be sattvic, and then sometimes, like Krishna said to the gopis, well, he didn't say, he played his flute, and the gopis came running. The Krishna, for his satisfaction, for his pleasure. The gopis, when they dress themselves, it's not that, oh, I am so beautiful, this is for my satisfaction. It is that Krishna will be happy. Of course, because they went so quickly to Krishna, Krishna called, no hesitation. Oh, this is auspicious, this is inauspicious, is this the right time, is this the right place? God calls, you're there, yesterday. And we consider, what's auspicious, maybe it's auspicious, I'll surrender to Krishna after I've done so many things, and I've got these things for this and things for that, and that. So in that way we dawdle in the material world life after life with our auspicious and inauspicious things while God is calling. Krishna, when he was in Dwarka, he wanted to show Narada Muni that, who are my devotees who, love me without any motivation, pure love. And so he, said to Narada, I have this headache. Oh, Narada, what will help you? Oh, if you get the dust from the lotus feet of my devotees. We know that story, but if we know that story, then we know what is auspicious or inauspicious. So he went to so many devotees like that. Oh no, we're not going to give the dust. How inauspiciousness. How condemned to take the dust from my feet. I am such a wretch. To put that on the head of God? How inauspicious. And then, so he said, you go to the gopis. The gopi says, oh, Krishna has a headache. Oh, take immediately. Narada Muni is surprised. You're not fearful of going to hell? It's so inauspicious you'll go to hell? Oh, no. Let us go to hell, because our happiness is Krishna's happiness. Yes, let me go to hell. If Krishna is happy, then therefore, the last verse of the Shishastikam, Aslishava paradadam banastamam adashanam abhamadam kurotava yatatata vavadato lampado matprananatastu sevanapraha. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is always my worshipful Lord. What's that? Unconditionally, Parambhajati Shri Krishna saying, that unconditional love, that whatever he does, and he may sometimes act like a debauchee, as they say. Krishna's very tricky. But, of course, that's on a transcendental platform to evoke different transcendental emotions. But whatever Krishna wants, that is my happiness. And if Krishna places me in a circumstance that causes me great anxiety and tribulation, and that is Krishna's happiness, then I accept that anxiety and tribulation as my greatest happiness. That is auspicious. So, actually a devotee has no concept of what's happiness or unhappiness, what's auspicious or inauspicious, apart from what gives Krishna pleasure. And that is called pure love of God. And for those devotees, Krishna, therefore we learn from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, from the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, that Krishna is so pleased with them that he becomes indebted. He becomes so indebted that he says, I am yours. You possess me. Therefore, we can only get the mercy of Krishna through the Vaishnavas and the Vaishnavis because Krishna is in their hand. Therefore, we sing every morning the verse of Srila Prabhupada. You can give Krishna. Otherwise, it's not. Krishna is in their hand. Therefore, we must, and that is the process that Krishna gives. You go through my representative, because I've given myself to them, because of their pure love. And I cannot give myself to anyone unless my devotee is happy with them. Therefore, you serve my devotee. Again, service. Jai. All glory to Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.